Good morning, everybody. John Spielka here for GAI Insights, bringing you your GenAI news, essential, important, or optional. Today, we've got Ankaj, Vivek, Paul, Luda, and myself. A lot of interesting stuff going on here. Everything from we're optioning a new set of models from the Chinese, as well as unbelievable case studies around how Goldman Sachs and Thomson Reuters and others are using generative AI to make themselves more productive. All right. And remember, you can, if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. And the articles are available at GAI Insights .com/articles that you can look at. So good morning, everybody. And Ankaj, can we have our first article, please?
Sure, thanks, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from MIT, and it talks about buy, boost, or build, choosing your path to GenAI.
Yes, we have our friends at MIT Sloan here. What do you think, Luda?
Yeah, it's a very small article, like a page and a half or something, to talk about how you can work with LLMs, and there are three ways. So I rated it by adjust and build your own. I rated it optional because I think it is. If it was published 2 years ago, it would have been very appropriate. Might be a little too late for the market. I think everybody has that in mind already, has gone through that thinking, and there's no new news in here, unfortunately. So I rated it optional.
Yes. Okay, Paul.
Optional.
Vivek.
Yeah, I was optional as well. I have just a couple additional thoughts on this article. I am completely in agreement with Luda that this is old news. That this debate has gone on too long. But I think now there are new emerging vectors that any AI leader should consider. Right, that we can now build agents, citizen development, vibe coding. They're adding additional layers that we don't need to go buy a big big hunky software or even build a big hunky software, but that there are like features that employees can build that could be actually pretty productive for the enterprise. So I think this is very general old school thinking, in my opinion. I think we're moving past build, buy, bespoke, boost, however you want to call it. So, but yeah, that's why I gave it an optional.
Ankaj, where are you on this?
Optional, John. I agree with Luda. 2 years back, this was essential, maybe, but right now, optional.
2 years back, Rattle, they've been Bill Buyer, and come on, this is as old as time, and this is poorly done. This is a real, the editor shouldn't let stuff. This hurts the brand. I mean, this is so. This is This is brief platitudes, poorly argued, and could have been much better done by a robot. Optional. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from Goldman Sachs and talks about how Goldman Sachs bankers are exploring the limits of AI, and they there's a risk of over reliance.
Yes, looks like a PR planted thing in the FT about Goldman Sachs, but what do you think here, Vivek?
Yeah, I, I was between an optional and important. The part that I didn't like is I think it's a clickbait headline, and the article is not really about over reliance. It's really about the journey of this one executive, Carrie Blum, and her path of adopting AI within her workflows. And she talks about the incredible benefits to her productivity utilizing AI. So I think that from that perspective, it's an important journey to capture. But beyond that, it's one person's perspective. It doesn't translate to any significant impact that was highlighted in this article. So that's, and then it's still kind of, the use cases are legacy use cases, I would say, in 2025 that they are highlighting. Yeah, so that's what I was more leaning optional.
So, Ankaj, what do you think about this article from the Pink Paper?
Optional for me as well, John. I agree with Vivek here that it's not a reflection of what Goldman Sachs is doing, but more of a reflection of how this particular leader is using GenAI in her workflow. So optional for that reason.
Paul?
Yeah, Vivek, I like you. I saw this article. I was so excited about jumping into it because it's a really important topic. They have 46,000 people. They've rolled out the secure employee chatbot to it. They're automating high-end cognitive tasks. We know that humans are tendency to over-rely on this. We've certainly seen that as we went from physical maps to digital maps. No one double checks their map now. Oh my God, if we're doing that now and all the investment research. So it's a really important topic, but it was absolutely thin and wasn't practical at all. So 100% optional. And I think a little bit like the MIT, I don't think this helps the Goldman brand. I think it helps her personal brand, but doesn't help the Goldman brand.
What do you think, Luda?
Yeah, I was optional. There were some interesting thoughts at the end, and her advice um, to job seekers, especially the young one coming out of the universities. She's reflecting, saying, "Look, what would be happening is that if you are versed in AI, you can actually do much more productive work, much more valued work within the company rather than changing slides and preparing summaries and the like." So she's saying that it actually the nature of work for the new entrants would be way more valuable and different. So that was interesting, but overall optional.
Yeah, I had it more important because it's Goldman and because you have a leader talking about how it's really changing the way they do their work. But I agree with you. You guys have convinced me this is optional.
Yeah.
Optional it is. Okay, next.
I
Okay,
mean,
the
but John,
next one that we
I'm
have.
sorry, okay. John, to that point, I mean, I would like to see AI leader at least forward this to their CFO, because it is Goldman. It shows an executive doing it, but it's not the right title.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you have 46,000 people on this thing. I heard the CIO Goldman, Marco, I forget his last name, talk about this platform about a year ago in New York, and it's impressive what they're doing, and he had much more interesting and aggressive things to say about this. A lot of people, even though the Goldman brand's been beat up a little bit by some of the crazy stuff they do, it's still a leader in the space, and they're highly respected in the capital markets. So, this is right in the middle. And Goldman for many years was a leader on Wall Street in terms of the use of technology, and so.
But,
Huh?
And John, they're in the crucible in our wins framework, top
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
But guys, what it shows actually in her reflections, she is using it, and she is seeing the team is using it. So it from the introduction to this state, this is quite a bit of progress. This is becoming way into the fiber of what she's doing. So that's important in that from that perspective.
Absolutely. All right, optional. Ankaj, next.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Anthropic, and it's a case study about how Cox Automotive transforms car sales with Claude in Amazon Bedrock.
Yeah, and you're the lead on this. Ankaj, go for it.
Yes. So basically, this one talks about how Cox Automotive started using Claude on Amazon Bedrock. So they selected Claude Sonnet and Claude Haiku, and they were already working with Amazon, so they selected Amazon Bedrock as the platform. They are using this solution in three areas. So they are using in their CRM, where they are generating personalized emails and texts. Then they are also using it in their private seller exchange, where the Claude Haiku is helping them generate automatic listing depictions. And then they are also using it for dealer.com managed services, where it generates blog posts and landing pages for them. And they have been able to get some benefits out of it. There has been 2x increase in consumer lead responses, and there has been 80% positive feedback from sellers using these AI generated listing descriptions. So while this does not have the how part of it, how they did it, but it explains well how they are using it, the areas that they are using it in, and what benefits they were able to achieve through using Claude models on Amazon Bedrock. So important for me for that.
All right. Got an important vote here. What do you think, Vivek?
Yeah, I was more leaning optional to some of the reasons that Ankaj mentioned, that they are They don't have much details around how this was applied, but the big piece is that yeah, they have increased in lead generation and responses and test drives, but does that translate to revenue and sales and all the investments? So do they have the ROI of these Gen AI investments? And I think that's where most of the field is moving towards, given now that these use cases need to be matured into significant enterprise value. So that's part of the reason why I don't think it lacked that type of detail. And I like the part about data governance and the work that it was unique in this article, but overall, I was leaning more optional because of the lack of data.
All right, Ludo, we got one E, one O. I mean, one I, one O.
Yeah, I was optional. If this was done by the AWS, it would have been a better case, I think. So I think in the current day and age, the case studies should have the explanation of how they did it and the impact, business impact on what occurred. So this article lacks both. So unfortunately, optional.
Paul?
Optional, but Cox is a pretty sophisticated company, and we had, I forget David's last name, one of the data scientists about a year and a half ago had what I saw was the most sophisticated way of evaluating different LLMs, and he did a whole learning lab on it. So they're doing some really interesting things internally, but this does lack the how, and I think Onkaj also shows maturity of the bar now. It's not just case study. We have a few results. It's case study with the how, with the validation and the governance and everything else. So the market is maturing. But
let me make the case for important, if you will. Because Cox is a big force in the automotive business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as Akash said, this is very well received by the dealers. And this is a domain that if you had said 18 months ago, where's generative AI going to hit? Is it going to hit in, automotive trading? And, it's like, I don't know, maybe. And it's just, to me, it helps point out the ubiquity. I agree. AWS case studies in the main have set a new bar in terms of putting the technical detail and then the business impact in. And this does not, this is a poor case study compared to AWS, but, important is still not required reading. And, Cox is a major name, you know what I mean? And they do talk about, use and so forth. And, we've got a little bit of the doctoral student problem, which is, we're all in this every day, but most people aren't, you know what I mean? And so what's news to us isn't always news to, whatever.
Yeah, no, I think I can live with important, John, because of what you point out.
All righty, important it is. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from AWS, and it talks about how MSG enhanced HR workforce transformation with Amazon Bedrock and MSG.profile map.
All right, Luda, here we have the case study you want.
So I was between important and essential, and I'm leaning towards essential. Here's the reasoning. So MSG is a software vendor in highly regulated industries. They have a product that is focused on HR services and MSG profile map that is a AWS partner and is on their platform with 7,500 users. So it's a major platform, a major software vendor. So this article talks through how they put the unstructured data on profiling into the structured presentations. And what I particularly like about it is how they evaluated the accuracy of what the system was doing. And that's in the regulated industry, this is critical. And so they talk about it in the implementation and share the results. The results are quite stunning, that they've increased the accuracy to 95.5, and as a result, the manual validation went down 70%, and so it's quite impressive, and I think it translates to other industries. That's why I was leaning towards essential.
All right, we got an important leaning toward essential. What do you think, Vivek?
Yeah, I was in the same boat as Luda for all the reasons she mentioned. I think they do a great job at kind of capturing some of the the basic functionality of GenAI systems, like extracting information from unstructured data, harmonizing this information, looking at semantic vectors, and then sort of enriching it using the variety of different models that Amazon Bedrock has. So overall, yeah, it's a great use case description that can share to IT teams. Sure.
All right, Akash, where are you on this?
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. Yes. John, I'm with Vivek and Luda on this one. So I was essential for this one.
All right, Paul?
The hyperscalers are an intergalactic war, and Azure and Google need, and even Oracle need to get their act together, because Amazon's now, it's been over a year now that we consistently are impressed with their case studies. I support it. So everything, I'm just highlighting how good these guys are in doing this.
So you're essential on this, or what?
Essential, yeah.
All right, essential it is.
Okay, then. Yes, Sean. The next one comes from VentureBeat, and it is titled "The NT ChatGPT Thomson Reuters Multi-Agent System slashes 20-hour tasks to 10 minutes."
Yeah, Vivek, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like this article. Again, I have a little bit of bias towards deep research tools, but I think this highlights exactly how the paradigm is shifting from just a search-based interface to doing deep analysis on your domain documents and workflows using more multi-agentic research-based orchestrations. And what Thomas Reuther has done is they've developed this tool that will go and look at, sort of do a nuanced multi-step legal analysis. And not only that, but it's just doing sort of uh, competing perspectives, which RAG systems and current chatbots are not able to do. So to have this kind of multi ideas challenging each other and capturing all of those insights and extracting them, and this applies to healthcare as well. Like, we do look at clinical data that is often contradictory, and how do we gather insights from that? So it applies to a lot of different industries. I was important leaning more to essential, because this is a new paradigm shift that companies are going to start incorporating more deep research type orchestrations in their workflows. So
Yeah, and I totally, and I think Kevin makes a really good point here about how the accuracy of unstructured data is often, it depends on the architecture of the inference and the intelligence, but a lot of times it's about competing points of view, if you will. Yeah. Which is very human-like in a certain way, or you kind of have a market and expertise. What do you think here, Luda?
I think Kevin's point was to the last article, and Kevin did, they actually took the unstructured data and converted it to structured and ontologies, and the way they measured the structured through the rubric that was created, ontology rubric, and that's how they made it so that it's higher percentages. So that's an interesting thing that I forgot to mention in itself. So thanks for bringing it up. On this one, I agree with Vivek, and I also was impressed by how they validated the results. So there's a lot of stuff happening on the evaluations, and how people, knowing that it's non-deterministic, people are focusing on evaluations and getting really good results. So this is I'm in essential camp.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, double essential. And John, I'm now convinced more than ever we are going to see 15 million jobs get eliminated that are $100,000 plus here in the States. We're going to have 20% plus unemployment of graduates at liberal arts schools that traditionally were hired by insurance and investment firms and consulting firms. And this is a great example on why this job tsunami is coming here. And I continue to find executives, Luda, who don't fully understand deep research. They think it's like this little tool that a researcher is using over there, not something that's ripping through what a lot of their entry-level employees are doing. So this is definitely essential.
Yeah, I agree with essential, and the 15 million unemployed. I hope that we, as a nation, decide to actually make an investment in our capabilities, but it's going to be significant. And I think it's true that the Bolshevik Revolution was largely led by the professional class. So anyway, could get interesting. What do you think here? Let's see, Ankash, did we hear from you on this one?
Yes, John. Essential for me as well.
Essential for you as well. Okay, essential it is. Sorry. All right, go to the last one here.
Okay, the last one comes from Alibaba and Quinn and talks about Tongai Deep Research, a new era of open source AI researchers.
Yeah, boy, I'm on this one, and I'm going to give this an essential. This is the first fully open source alternative to OpenAI's deep research that has benchmark parity. In addition, we've talked for months about the importance of algorithmic innovation, and here we have a really great example of all the different ways that they have created new algorithms and new methodologies for training that they share in detail. And the ability to do any number of things. One of the things is that how they treat errors, so that they don't have errors coming back and creating more noise in the training environment. The way that they do sampling, the way that they do synthetic data generation. These are all things that are incredibly important. And the kind of simplistic way I think about it is you have this infinite search space, and how you navigate in that infinite search space to constantly decrease the noise and create better semantics and alignment, and all the different places in the creation of the model, the running of the model, and the monitoring of the model that they do that. And there's clever solutions for each piece of that. So I think this is essential knowledge for the AI leader. And the other thing is that this is really the frontier is going towards scalable, autonomous, self-improving agents working in concert. And sometimes they're working on the data issue, sometimes they're working on the inference issue, sometimes they're working on the judgment issue. And this thing also lays out an architecture, which we talked about a lot, which is, and this goes to our enterprise intelligence architecture framework, that you've got a request, some kind of query that either comes from a human or a machine, comes in, gets parsed, then gets broken up into different activities, then gets reassembled, then gets judged, then iterates, then gets reassembled, then gets judged and iterates, and then comes out the other end. This architecture looks a lot like that in terms of where things are going. And I think it's got profound implications. And then you combine this with the ideas about agentic and some of the stuff that Ramesh Raskar and others are doing, like Nanda at MIT. Right now, this all sits within those activities we just talked about, sit within a model. One can imagine that at different parts of that, you actually go out to a market of agents that then improve and then get reassembled. So, I think we're looking at a modularization of intelligence and improvement, and they're sharing what those algorithms look like. And right now it sits within the boundary of the quote unquote model, but I imagine over time, it's going to be a combination of going out into ecosystems and getting information coming back, and then adding that insight and inference into the model boundary in the context of a task. So to me, this is another step up in the next evolution of where these things are going. So I was going to give it essential, but what do you think, Luda?
Yeah, I would agree with you. This is pushing the boundary. Unfortunately, they don't talk about evals and how they talk about the quality of data and what they did, the various innovations in that sense. So that was very important. So it is pushing the envelope. I would have liked to see more evaluation. So they have a system when they spawn agents to do specific tasks. Then there is an orchestrator that then evaluates them, but they don't talk about how. Evaluates them and comes up with the best answer. So in that sense, this is lots of innovation and pushing the boundary. So I agree, essential.
Yeah, it's interesting, Kevin. This challenge in deep research is models still frequently hallucinate, rooting out those inaccuracies. I hear you. I think they do a bunch of stuff here that tries to mitigate that, and there are judging functions as you go along. So and I hear you, Luda. I haven't been into the code and the explanation and so forth. Maybe in the open source code, there's documentation with it, there's more explanation of how those things get done. That isn't reflected in this article right now, but I think we have the gradients and trying to decrease error and noise in the model itself. But I think we're also developing a semantic layer that's going to be a judging layer. And to your point, Kevin, I think that yes, the reinforcement learning ones do, but this one has many interventions in terms of how they update the working environment, how they deal with the data itself, how they generate synthetic data, which is superior to the data they're getting from the web, as ways to try to work that issue. So I think they're very self-aware that deep research hallucination is an issue and can go off the rails quickly with a reinforcement learning paradigm. Yeah, Vivek, where are you on this?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. And just addition to that, this specific, between the last article and this article, we're going to see an increase in token use, and having an open source modular framework does allow us to kind of manage costs while going down this innovation path. But everything you mentioned, John, I agree with you. This is an important and it is essential article.
Ankash, where are you?
John, I'm super essential on this one. Just linking it with few other developments in the past week or so. So we have seen now that Agent 3 from Replit, it can work autonomously for 2+ hours, right? GPT-5 Codex release, they are saying it can work autonomously for 7+ hours now. And then there's a recent chart from Hugging Face which talks about how Chinese model downloads are surpassing American model downloads on Hugging Face. I think combining all those factors, this is a super essential article in the open source space talking about research. And I think it will translate very well to other areas of autonomous agents as well.
Paul?
Yeah, really. I thought great paragraphs analysis, Vivek and John and Ankash. Vivek, at the conference coming up, one of the things we're going to be talking about was Bill Famrich at Blue Cross Blue Shield that's seen token explosion through the roof and how that costs, and they're channeling, by user and by executive and everything else. It's a non-trivial issue here. A thing I want to highlight is just how important the deep research is to companies in the crucible. We've now, I think it's 4 or 5 very sophisticated financial services firms that are having us help them with their 101 training and the 201 training they all want. And we've got 3 of them now are on the research part of the group because they want to make sure that their researchers are staying current with where this is going. So I think this whole notion that if you're really in a high value add research, you've got to stay current on the tools and you've got to stay current with your people using the most current tools. And we're looking at this exponential innovation in different areas, particularly around deep research and now even China. So it's again breathtaking.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, if you go to traditional economics and you say, okay, we went for the manufacturing wave, right, and the physical wave, and we created modern management and so forth, and then the knowledge wave, in terms of coordinating, in the knowledge economy. And now I think we're in the algorithmic wave, which is a combination of platform and the algorithms and the interaction between. I think we're seeing the birth of at scale algorithmic management systems, and that's the thing is that those have path dependencies. That is, you can't just go and create a longitudinal learning algorithm that's tuned to your organization. You have to get in there and work that and make that work. And the folks who create these platforms are then going to be able to get access to expertise that's going to be in a market or a quasi market. So as the shakeout comes, and then the Chinese are basically doing to the American investors what Craigslist did to the classifieds, which is they're going to suck a lot of the economic value that the investors and folks like OpenAI could have extracted that economic value out of organizations. But the Chinese are just going to commoditize the living daylights out of that. And then also on a global basis, the Chinese are getting embedded in the intelligence. If you believe, as I do, that we're creating an intelligence market for the world, the Chinese are going to be way more distributed there because of the way that they're playing this with the open models and the sharing of everything but the data. And that's very powerful from a geopolitical basis, and also in terms of where jobs and value are going to be. it's a whole nother game. And I don't hear a lot of people kind of talking about it, you know.
John, I was really, again, another really great paragraph. And do you think because of that, this area of AI is underhyped or
completely underhyped?
Appreciated.
I think there's two major underhypes. One is the geopolitical implications of the open source strategy of the Chinese and the quality of the models, and also kind of an adjacency there is the fact that they've been building out the Westinghouse small nukes, Westinghouse designed small nukes, and they're on a path to build tons of nuclear capacity in a way that the U.S. isn't. So they're going to have the most practical lower carbon power supply that is going to be super important as this goes along. And the other thing is just the massive explosion that's going to happen in science and mathematics, because the reinforcement learning in science and mathematics works very well once you get it tuned right. And these things learn, a billion in a time scale, it's a billion times faster than humans. And it's that is going to be unbelievable, because the isomorphism from the ability to describe something in math and physics, and then to put it down into reality and create a market in that we've never seen. This is a scientific revolution, like to the 10th power. I mean, it's just going to be unbelievable. So I think it's underhyped in those two areas.
Yeah, John, that's where I was actually going. We saw the scientific revolution. There needs to be another name here. This is the algorithmic administration, but something that's digital and at scale that's totally different than the scientific revolution.
I'm starting to like the idea of algorithmic management, which was talked about 10 years ago by a bunch of academics and so forth. But I think this whole notion of algorithmic management and how people interact with silicon intelligence in the context of an algorithmic platform and then a market and quasi-market, because if you have contracting structures where you can get access to this stuff and transactions, then it's the old Coasian analysis of hierarchies and markets, right? You can actually make a market in expertise within the firm. If you have good APIs and good standards at the edges, you can trade outside. And so many of the things we saw that were like SaaS activities, those are very bureaucratic, and the intelligence in a SaaS relationship, with Salesforce or something like that's very static. We're talking about dynamic adjustment, and if you think about it analytically, that's huge. And then if you have a supplier like the Chinese coming in and saying, "Oh, by the way, the whole inference infrastructure we can make super cheap," it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
All right.
And what's happening, we're building the stepping stones, like deep research is one stepping stone, autonomous execution, the agents, all of those are stepping stones. The science and math that goes on top of it, guided by the industry or particular vertical expertise. It's really a stack that's happening.
And we have whole domains that we haven't even computed yet. So if you think about, we've computed language, right? Pretty much, in every kind of language, Mandarin, English, whatever. We haven't computed genomics and proteomics yet. That's coming, right? Yeah. And those models are going to be completely different, right? Because they're going to start from a different base. We've only begun the real world computation, right? And that's coming, I think, from a combination of the gaming activity and the military are going to accelerate, real world models. And then there'll be other areas. Material science will be one, although I don't see the data set. I do see where the data sets can come for the other two. I don't know where the data set's going to come for the material science one, but we'll figure that out. And as those things happen, then you're going to have interaction among those things and the progression of science and math,
explosion.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to accelerate like crazy.
Yeah.
And the last but not least, knowledge has traditionally been impacted. That is, you can't trade it because you have to have an expert understand it, use it, and so forth. This is taking the liquidity of knowledge and making it way more liquid. So you'll be able to apply it in different areas faster, whether it's agricultural knowledge, manufacturing knowledge, legal knowledge. And that's going to radically change value extraction, around the world.
And I know we're just riffing on, and John, just to keep on a bit further, that exchange is going to be with digital intelligence, not monkey brain intelligence. So it's going to happen faster. It's going to happen in more efficient language.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen 24 hours a day.
Yeah. I mean, think of the global capital markets as a really stupid version of where we're going.
Yeah.
Like the global capital markets maybe have an IQ of like 10, in this thing. And, we're going to have genius markets, right, that are going to, in this stuff. Anyway. All right. Okay.
Yes, John.
Do we have the tote board?
Yep.
So we got a few essentials today. Is it 2 or 3? Let's see.
3.
2, 3. Yes, 3 essentials, 2 optionals, 1 important. All right. Big day today. Any announcements?
A couple announcements. This Monday, speaking of evals, Lucinda Lindy is going to be presenting at our weekly learning lab at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on evals, on how to do good evals and how to evaluate that. Second, we're 10 days out from our conference, so people are interested in that, let us know. And here in Boston, there's a tremendous amount of activity for Boston AI Week. Vivek, we're pretty close to our goal of 100 events throughout the city on a shared calendar. And we're really using that as a galvanizing effort for the whole AI community.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. Any other announcements? Luda, Vivek, Akash?
I just want to say, Paul, you're really instrumental for that. So thanks for doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, our fearless leader has really driven that, and with a graciousness that matches, that when Harry Truman did the Marshall Plan and named it after Marshall, I thought was pretty cool. So Paul's kind of doing the same thing for Boston AI Week.
Yeah.
All righty. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Guys.
for joining. Thank you.